The energy is high right now in the Now Morning Show studio. Welcome back to your Friday edition. And it's because we have in studio with us Sean Drake's producer and part of an incredible team on The Last Mass, Minshall in the Carnival of Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Natasha.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you this morning on the show. And thank you so much for this incredible book this morning. I mean, viewers, you're seeing it here on the table. We were just discussing that the cover is from the 1997 band Tapestry.
Absolutely.
Now, tell me a little bit about how this came to life.
Well, thanks for that question. It was actually an outproduct of the previous book that was funded by the Prince Claus Fund, and that book didn't come to realization. And folks who had saw my work that was contributed to that, namely Patricia Ganise and Christopher Cozier, said, you know, you have a book just within what you submitted, and that was back in like 2008. And I really I'm not sure. It's a little book, I don't know. And then I sort of stuck with the idea. The idea just grew from there, and I said, well, you know, we were going to close off at 2013 with Ship of Fools, and then Patricia Ganise started bringing some folks who had written essays. They were in Trinidad during the 90s, covering the same bands that I was photographing, and it was just like a magical synergy between what they observed and what I documented. And that's how we got The Last Mass.
It's absolutely amazing because, if I'm not mistaken, there are 9 essays in here. How does it feel to see these essays perhaps give even more life to the images that you took?
Listen, I literally got the books. It was printed in Canada. I got the books Christmas week, and I am just now literally starting to exhale again because the last few years, the burden has been intense to get this right and to get it as close to flawless as possible because, you know, we're dealing with a living legend and, you know, the legacy and then, you know, the most magical cultural export out of Trinidad and Tobago, you know, the Carnival. I would say that I've never given birth to a child, but it's definitely akin to that.
There are how many photographs in here?
113 photographs in total. We focus on the decade that I would say, as Professor Gerard Lawrence Aching states in there, Minshall is credited with taking the Trinidad Carnival onto universal stages, onto the global stage. And so we start in that period of the 91, 92 when he was preparing for the 92 Olympics. And each essay, again, it's just such a phenomenal coincidence that these professors, in addition to Gerard Lawrence Aching, there's Mila Cozart-Reggio from Trinity College. Gerard is associated with Cornell University. Philip Scheer from the University of Oregon, and Antron D. Mahoney from the College of Charleston in South Carolina. And each one came down on their own, and they were just like interrogating and examining the work that Minshall was producing each year from Hallelujah. We have a focus on the Dying Swan. We have a focus on the Greek mythology that our curator Claire Tancoons out of France did a survey on the work, including the Donkey Derby, as well as Odyssey and the smaller bands, the power of his smaller bands. As they're, you know, as impressive as the larger productions that he produced.
I mean, that's the entire thing about Minshall. You know, once anything that comes from his hands, from his mind, from his team, it just touches lives. And there is no doubt as well that this book is going to touch lives. I mean, as soon as you came in, once the book came in, we all gathered around to just take a look. Now, one of the questions I would love to ask is, because you did mention that you were here, you were photographing over a period of time. How did you choose just these 113? It must have been such a challenge.
Well, it was. It was a rather intense process because, firstly, some of the film, because it's film, 35 millimeter slide film for when I was shooting, for the years I was shooting for Caribbean Beat, and negative film for when I was shooting for the Trinidad Guardian. And I would say that it started with me, just as Pat says, you know, the images are a memory file of my favorite shots. The idea is there are 9 bands in that section that you're looking at. The book opens like a theater act would. There's a symbolic image of red, which is symbolic of the opening of a curtain at a theater production. The book has 3 acts. The first act are the essays, and then the second act are the intimate, rare portraits of the Callaloo workshops that happened down in Chaguaramas. And then the third part is just a pictorial of the bands. and the bands are presented as one cohesive band with 9 sections, when in actuality there are pictures from 9 different bands.
Absolutely fantastic.
May I just please
Of course.
plug the fact that the photography, digitizing all of that film, once again, I want to show it's film, there's very little manipulation of, digitally, was financed and sponsored by First Citizens Bank under the stewardship of Larry Alton with Dexter Charles, and the Ministry of Culture and the Arts under the stewardship of Dr. Diane Gadsby-Dolly, also came forward with a production grant towards the book.
It's wonderful to hear, of course, that you've had so many interested and on board for this. So my next question to you is, how long did it take you to put this together?
Oh gosh, we have, I would say, as I say, we were shutting down at 2013, and then we heard, oh, every year that they say, oh, he's coming out of the band. I'm like, okay, let me buy a ticket. I'm coming down. And then I'll say, I shoot the smaller bands. I said, okay, but then when it came to Mas Pieta, I would say from Mas Pieta, so I haven't been in Trinidad since Mas Pieta, just before COVID.
Right.
And I would say the last 8 years.
Wow.
Is a conservative number of years that we were
incredible.
Really, because we got the last essay, I would say, within, I think it was last year. And when we got that essay on The Dying Swan, that's when we knew, I was like, this is it. We can close off.
Definitely closing off, but definitely continuing to bring something back to life every single time that we're able to touch, open, feel this book as well. Now, if I'm not mistaken as well, this is a limited edition, correct?
It is very limited.
How limited?
We're not going to release the number. What I will say is that every time we post something, the Facebook page, The Last Mass, where can I get it? Where can I literally had to stop posting because I had to wait for the books to arrive. And then I had to wait for filing of copyright in the U.S. Copyright Office. And then I had to, like this week, I arrived Wednesday. I had to wait for the Declare Customs to actually get a valuation of what we can really price it at in Trinidad and Tobago. At the moment, it's going to be an online situation. We don't have a retailer here. All the production costs were in U.S. Even the sponsorship from First Citizens, they pay directly, wire the money directly to U.S. The lab that handled the images. So until I can find a local book publisher, a bookstore that can say, okay, well we can purchase it in U.S., then fine. But for now, it will be online, the Facebook Marketplace, and if there are other online platforms that will become available, they'll be posted on the Facebook page, The Last Mass. We are in discussions with 2 U.S. museums that are interested in carrying the book.
Wonderful. This is amazing. And wonderful to see as well that, of course, it spans not just Trinidad and Tobago, but the region and the world, which Minshall was not shy of course. It's so amazing to see this. Now, one of my next questions to you, you mentioned that the end of the book is in acts, right? And the end of the book, you have these 9. Which was your favorite out of these 9 bands?
Oh, well, I will say this. I still have my costume from Ship of Fools, my costume from Red, and my costume from Pico Plaid. So the way my approach to photographing it is I had to masquerade. I had to sort of camouflage myself and the camera, so I wore the costume. I purchased my costume, I was in the band, and my approach is I need the most candid, pure, authentic representation of someone enjoying and embraced and engaged with the mass and the experience. It's rather intoxicating. Having played myself, the soca, it's intoxicating and it's intense because the Savannah stage is no joke during the 90s. I don't know about right now, but during the 90s it was no joke. And then you have the weight of executing the performance as the artist envisioned it, right? That first section, the Kalu Company section with Wendell and Cecilia and Roger, those guys, the trainings that you see in there, the theater trainings, because Minshall's effort, his drive was always, the Carnival is high art, and that was in here when I'm editing those pictures. I don't want pictures with a lot of ads. I don't want to see, the different brands, because the landscape is littered with advertising. And my approach was that I need to capture the energy that's pure. It's not about don't look at me and do this. I don't want that shot.
Yeah.
I want to really capture you, not you taking the camera in, but the camera taking you in.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's a beautiful way to end our conversation. Sean, thank you so much for being here this morning. And thank you for sharing this and bringing this to us as a world as well. It's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful day and have a great carnival.
Oh, thank you. I'm not going to be here, but
we'll send you some good energy
on my behalf.
Thank you so much. Sean Drake's The Last Mass, producer, and so much more. This is the Now Morning Show. Stay tuned. Your birthdays are coming up next.